Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners Board Work Session for Monday, October 4th, 2021. We're on to budget presentations. It is 1:34 p.m. We have slated here 2 hours, it looks like, related to Treasurer's Office and Auditor's Office. We're starting with the Treasurer's Office, and I see County Treasurer Jeff Gabman. To my name is Ty Menser, Chair of the Board. To my right is Commissioner Carolina Mejia. Commissioner Edwards is not present today. We have County Manager Mary Chavez to my left and Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell just to the right of Carolina, Commissioner Mejia. So we've got public following along on the YouTube channel, and 2 hours, I guess that's an hour per group this afternoon. We were going to have 3, it sounds like, and we're down to 2.
Right. Just to recap, we have I printed out the new schedule for you, so you've got it. Each of the presenters has 45 minutes. We had the assessor on this afternoon as well, but he is not in the office today, so we've moved his presentation to next Friday. And the auditor moved up as early as she could after the treasurer, but we do have a bit of a break in there. But Treasurer Gatman's got from 1:30 to 2:15, and I'm gonna turn it over to him.
Good afternoon, everybody. Commissioners, County Manager, Assistant County Manager, thank you very much for your time this afternoon and the opportunity to present a modest ask to you. You know, the number one responsibility of my office is safeguarding public money. And that is not only on behalf of Thurston County, but also for over 40 other taxing districts and entities. And I and my staff take that responsibility very, very seriously. We basically are the bank for the county. Local cities, school districts, fire districts, special purpose districts, and other units of local government. The major responsibilities of the county treasurer are receiving and accounting of revenue, collection of taxes, disbursement of funds, cash management, debt management, and investment portfolio management. And I'm very proud to say the quality of the staff we have in this office to achieve those things is incredible. So looking at funds that are managed by the treasurer, the general fund, there 2020, we spent a little over $1.2 million. In 2021, we've been budgeted a little under $1.3 million. In 2022, we're proposing a little under 1.5 million and a little shade over 1.5 million for 2023. You can see the managed, the fund that I manage there is Fund 1160, which is the Reit Technology Fund. We make anywhere from 45 to 50,000 a year on this, depending on the Reit activity. It could go up or down depending on if Reit activity goes up or down. We're projecting to start 2022 with a little over $228,000 in that fund. So the way that the law is pretty specific as to how this money can be spent. And basically, it must be spent on maintaining an annual assessment system and electronic Reit. And so this fund is under the treasurer's control, but I do partner with the assessor for some of the expenditures out of this. So our proposed expenditures for 2022 are $101,063 and an ending balance in 2023 of $115,750.
Before we move on, could I ask a question? Yeah. On the revenue, Jeff, you just said that we collect anywhere from 25 to 50,000 depending on the strength of Reit each year. Did I catch that?
I said 45 to 50,
45 to 50 per year.
per year.
Right. So this 46,000 in proposed revenue for 2 years, that's probably a little low, would you say?
So, okay, so when I filled that number in, I filled that number in for 1 year.
Ah,
Two years would be closer to between 90 and 100,000.
okay. And are the expenditures also a 1-year amount?
Yes,
Okay. So both of those need to go up. Thank you.
yes. Sorry, I wasn't clear on what I should put into that box.
That's fine.
Those two numbers would be the 2022 numbers.
Okay.
But 2023 numbers will be very, very similar.
So it's still, the ending fund balance then at the end of 2023 will be significantly lower. Because in each year, you're spending about twice of what you're bringing in.
So,
Can I stop you real quick?
Yeah.
Are we talking about the 1160 Reit technology?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
He's going through on the PowerPoint, that the PowerPoint that is included in your packet.
yeah, I've got that. I'm just
Yeah.
looking at the financial plan for it.
Right.
But I do see that there's a slide, so I just want to make sure I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
yeah, so Robin, if you look, at the end of 2022, with the expenditures and the expected income, our fund balance, ending fund balance at the end of 2022 would be 173,856.
I see. I'm looking at the financial plan too now, so I see what you've done. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome. One of the things, so the projection on these ending fund balances is dependent on the assessor using his share of this fund. In 2021, he's not using any of it. And so our ending fund balance at the end of 2021 is projected to be over $228,000.
So the assessor is not using any of the Reit technology fund this year?
Not this year, no.
Okay, thank you. That's a conversation we may want to have with the assessor, because that means that he's charging that entire position from general fund.
And that was not the intent.
Well, the board gave him authority to do so, but it means he's got plenty of general fund. We'll have that conversation with the assessor.
Okay, are there any more questions about that?
I know we've had conversations in the past about Reit technology and its long-term health, but maybe I'll look to Robin. I mean, obviously, it's projected to deplete by 2025, and I
Right.
can't remember where we left that at the board level.
So that has been the plan for some time. Once the board, a number of years ago, when the board authorized the assessor to have an FTE that would be charged to this fund, the direction of the board was to charge the FTE to the fund until the fund could no longer bear it, and it would be assessed each year. So that's what we're doing. We're looking at it, and at that time, the prediction was that the fund would run out of money in 2 to 3 years, and it just hasn't. So it's the part of the reason is the assessor charges the cost of that FTE to the general fund when he has capacity in the general fund.
Right.
That preserves this fund. But when you're looking out into the future, we're assuming that the FTE is charged to this fund if for whatever reason, revenue may come in higher, the FTE probably won't be charged to this fund. So I think you'll continue to see it go in the future. The one concern, though, is that the treasurer does need some money out of this fund to fund the system that it supports. So we need to be careful that we don't, gut the fund so that there's sufficient money for what Jeff needs.
Yeah, that was basically my question. What else is this fund there to do? Because I know there was that
There's the FTE.
arrangement in the past to help it support this position. That was before I even got on the board, but
Right.
obviously it was there to do something else.
Right. Jeff, perhaps you can talk about the system that you use the money for.
So the Reit technology that we're using in this office, we're very, very fortunate that most of our electronic Reits go through Simplifile. And there's another company called CSC. And neither of those services charges us anything for processing the electronic Reits. So what that's done is giving me the freedom on this fund to help pay for, the computers for the front counter staff that process Reit, to pay for their printers and that sort of thing. So that takes pressure off of the general fund and me having to come and say, hey, I need this piece of equipment or I need that piece of software. So we're using it for that sort of thing that directly is touched by Reit or directly touches Reit. And I want to thank Robin for giving such an eloquent explanation. That was great.
Commissioner, you just pipe up when you have a question. We got a small group today. Yep.
Hey Jeff, I'm looking at slide number 3. And I see the department totals that you have. Right, and you have the 2020, 2021, and a significant jump from 21 to 2022, from 1,293,000 to 1,403,000, just about 200,000.
So if you look at the other line there, the one right above the total, you're going to see that's where the big jump is in expenses from 2021 to 2022. And that is anticipated interfund charges, most of that. Most of the increases on the things that I need is like travel and supplies and that sort of thing. It's a very, very modest trying to meet inflation, but for whatever reason, our interfund charge projections are taking quite an increase next year.
Okay, and thank you. That's probably what I was hoping it will be the answer is all the additional interfund charges, they have increased.
Yes.
Right. And the bulk of that is IT.
IT, yeah, all the IT. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So going on to challenges that we face, we need to, one thing that this pandemic taught us, first of all, is that the Thurston County family is incredible at pivoting very, very fast when we have to. And we pivoted from providing a total in-person customer service model to going virtual, for working remotely for almost everything. But the challenge that creates then is making sure that we acquire new technology as needed, upgrade technology as it becomes available, and then maintaining the technology that we need for staff, both for those working in the office and working remotely. That's not necessarily a challenge, but it is something that we have to keep in mind when we are trying to keep our high levels of customer service that our customers expect and have come to experience from us. A real challenge, we're keeping an eye on inflation because that, and this can be county-wide, that inflation could end up putting pressure on the budget. Everything that I'm seeing in my economic analysis and the economic analysts that I watch and track are agreeing with the Fed that this inflation is probably transitory, and by the end of the year it will settle down. But we do need to keep an eye on it. We can't take anything for granted. I have one policy level request. I've got a 35-year employee who is the accountant in my office, and that is one of the key positions that are essential for providing services to the public and to the tax districts. And what I'm asking is for a one-time $35,000 allocation in order to early hire her replacement. And I'm anticipating she's going to retire next year. If not, I would like the $35,000 to carry over into 2023 because I'm certain that she will choose to retire by then. And this is to recruit and hire a staff person, get them on board so that the current accountant can teach the new accountant, and also for computer and that sort of thing to equip the new person so that they can work.
So on the request, it says retirement leave. I understand the second position for the temporary double position and the need for that and the way you've set it out, but the retirement leave, I mean, can that be covered under HR's request of retirement leave?
So my understanding is the new fund being created for HR is only going to recover 50%.
So the proposal from HR, due to the cost, is we're proposing sick leave, half of sick leave, and see how that goes. And then once we get a better feel for how much it's going to cost, then potentially grow into more. But the proposal that you'll see from HR is for half of the sick leave buyout.
Okay, but I mean, I guess I have the same question. Is, Jeff, I completely understand the explanation about the overlap, but the summary thing says retirement leave and temporary double. So is there how much of it is do you estimate it's gonna have to go toward retirement leave versus how much is gonna go toward the overlapping training and hiring of the new person?
The bulk of this is going for hiring, training, and equipping the new person.
And when you were calculating, so bulk, I don't know, but okay, so say it's $10,000 or $5,000, were you, whatever minority of that amount that was thought of as the retirement leave piece, were you thinking about having to pay half, or were you guesstimating that were you putting in the whole amount because you don't know if the board will fund the retirement leave bank?
I'm asking for half, and being the optimist that I am, assuming that the HR fund is going to get created.
I see.
Okay. So we can work with you, Jeff, and figure out how much for each piece.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So that sums up the presentation I have for you. As always, I am a phone call away or come knock on the door, and I can answer any further questions you have, or just let me know anytime you want me to appear in front of you, and I certainly will accommodate that.
So while the board looks at the documents, I have a question about people paying their taxes online. I think it was last year or maybe the year before. we talked briefly about how one of your goals is to increase the percentage of property tax payers that pay online.
Mhm.
And I'm curious if, what was that percentage before the pandemic, and has the pandemic driven the numbers up?
So I believe most of last year's increase was pandemic driven. Some of it was driven by the fact that for the first half property tax payment last year, we were closed to the public.
That's true.
But yeah, we saw a huge increase last year. We went from 28 to 30, a little over 32%. And it's been growing incrementally every single year, but last year was a big jump.
And do you think that this year you'll be able to maintain at that higher level now that people were exposed to how easy that is?
Yes. Yeah, so there's two ways you can pay online. You can go online onto our website and just do a one-time payment, but you can also sign up to have an ACH transaction on your account.
Right.
And we only see those numbers of those people signing up for that permanent option increasing. I mean, you see a few drop off here and there, but for the most part, yeah, it increases a little bit more every single year. And I think there's a couple of things there. First of all, if people are paying online electronically, it's a real convenience, especially for retirees, because they don't have to come back here. They don't have to rely on the U.S. mail. They can just get it taken care of. It's instant, and they can be satisfied that they've done the transaction. But also it means they don't have to come up here and try to find parking. They don't have to, risk waiting in line. It's just, I think people see more advantages to it than disadvantages.
Right. Well, again, if there's anything that we can do to assist in your effort to increase those numbers, one of the things that the board's approved is revamping our website. So hopefully the website will be more inviting and easier to do business with. So that should.
Thank you. And that's one thing. You guys have always been so willing to help whenever we've asked, and I appreciate that. And I would like to get something into the Friday 5 newsletter, but not this month, because right now, as of today, we can't take any more enrollees on the ACH part of it. But yeah, if we could do that, and probably right after tax deadline is a good time to do it, when it's still fresh in people's minds.
Yeah, Brian Dominique is in the room, so he's taking notes.
Can I ask a
Awesome.
question in regards to that? So for people who pay theirs online, let's see someone is completely on top of it and pays it before their little bill comes in the mail. Is it kind of like, I'm not sure, is there like a database where like if someone's already paid it, like you don't get the bill, like, or you just get the receipt? And that way it kind of saves on postage? Is there something like that?
No. So there is roughly a 1 month period of time from the time that the tax statements are created till the time they're mailed.
Okay.
And once the tax statements are created, so first of all, nobody can find out what their taxes are going to be until the tax statements are created, because the tax roll hasn't been created yet. Once those tax statements are created, they're going in the mail. It's too time consuming and expensive to cherry pick statements out of the pile.
Okay.
And that's because our vendor that gets the tax roll, and then they create their file and they print pretty much right away, just because they don't have all of the storage capacity for all of the counties that use them.
Okay. No, thank you.
Marilyn, anything? Okay, well, sounds like we've got what we need. It's a very discernible and understandable request. So thank you, Jeff, for presenting that. And if you don't have anything else for us, we can break till our auditor presentation.
Yeah, thank you very, very much for your time and the thoughtful questions. I'm going to be out the rest of the week at the Waco conference, and so you're going to get a return on my email, but I will be checking the email periodically. So anything you need, just let me know.
Will do.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Thurston County Board of County Commissioners work session. It's our second this afternoon, Monday, October 4th, 2021. It's 2:48 p.m. My name is Ty Menser, Chair of the Board. To my right is Commissioner Carolina Mejia. To my left is County Manager Ramiro Chavez, and Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell is to the right of Commissioner Mejia. We're here for 45 minutes to review budget presentation from the Auditor's Office. The meeting is live streamed on the Thurston County YouTube channel, and the Auditor will be able to share her screen. And I guess go right to the County Auditor. Take it away, Mary.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can you see that?
Yeah, we see it with the kind of like the slides on the left and everything.
Okay, let me get it to a slideshow. Okay, is that better?
Yep. Yeah, pretty good. You still got the
Permit presenters mode. We're seeing the presenter mode page.
How do I get rid of that? Any idea?
Yeah, see the little 3 dots under the main slide? You would click on that. Yep, that. And you should be able to close the present. All right. So what we didn't see was the actual slideshow. If you've got 2 screens, then we're seeing the one that is the app rather than the slideshow.
Huh, I'm saying from the beginning. Slideshow. Resume slideshow.
presenter's mode is fine with me. It's just sometimes people have notes typed there and they don't, necessarily want those to display.
Yeah, no, I don't, and I'm sorry. I've done a million PowerPoint presentations, believe me, and I don't, this is the first I've had this happen.
So do you have the normal slideshow on the second screen?
Hey Mary, there's a button in the upper right-hand corner. It's checked. It says use presenters view. If you uncheck that, it should default to what you're expecting.
Okay,
It's
upper right.
It's monitors. I'm pointing like you can see me. I'm so sorry. It's monitors and it's in your gray bar. You need to uncheck that box.
Gray bar.
I know, to the left, we'll get there.
Yeah, are you watching my mouse?
Yeah, go the other way. It's on your options. Keep going right there. Uncheck that if you can. It should default you to normal.
How's that?
Now try to, play from the beginning.
Mary, why don't you stop sharing your screen and then pull it back up and see maybe if they'll do it again. Sometimes
Sure,
that
no.
works.
Usually you've got your PowerPoint application on one side and the actual presentation on the second screen, and you've got to share the right screen. Oh. Still
Is that better?
No, same one.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's not bothering us. Let's
Yeah,
just.
we can just
Let's go
through
with that.
Okay, good, because I've got a lot of departments under my umbrella, so I'm going to have to talk fast. I like to describe the auditor's office as we really are the Swiss Army knife of county government. There are so many different functions under the auditor's office that really have nothing to do with each other, but I think at the same time, we still work really hard to be a cohesive team and work across departments. And every department in my office, they are just all rock stars. And I've been the recipient of several awards this year, but really they're not about me. I mean, even the 2020 Auditor of the Year award, I mean, I had people in financial services working on procurement because we had all those grant funds and just didn't have the time to do it. I mean, people from every department picked up our drop boxes, and elections, boy, we had to pivot so many times. So that really was a huge effort, not just elections, but Diana and Emmett and Kathy. The President's Award is one that's given out by the president of the Auditors Association. And that award is given to auditors who, not just them, but their entire team really worked for the betterment of the association. So that would be licensing and recording, who are considered the subject matter experts and always share, you know, best practices. We have procedures on everything, our COOP plan. And then, of course, you know, financial services, we, you know, 6 Clean Audit, and they help all the departments. And the Heavy Hitter Award, that was one I'm pretty proud of, but, you know, I couldn't have done that. And that's for getting even your funding passed. But I couldn't have done that without my executive assistant, who came from the Lieutenant Governor's office and can talk to legislators like I never would. And, you know, we had a good strategy. We made it happen. And then a couple NACO awards, which really belong to everybody. But, you know, we have elections, licensing, recording, passports, financial services, grants management, internal audit, all under the auditor's office. And we're busy. So, you know, to really cut to the chase and tell you what our ask is this year, with the exception of, you know, restricted funds, which don't touch the general fund, it's really people, because we are, and a small reorg, because we are super, super busy. And, you know, our challenges, I'm sure it's very similar across the country, but we've got a huge increase in workloads. And, you know, we serve the public primarily, but then I look at financial services, we may have 5 retirements within the next 5 years of people who have been here for a really long time. So I really need to invest in staff and create a career ladder so we can attract and retain, you know, people. And then, of course, what is our post-pandemic work plan going to look like? You know, that's a big question mark. We're bursting at the seams at the ballot processing center, so thank you very much for purchasing that building. COVID, we still only can fit half as many people in there. In fact, we had observer training today, and it's standing room only, which I'm super excited about. But we did have an opportunity to purchase some automation equipment last year with some grant monies, but boy, it's not set up well in there because we've just had to cram it in corners, and that actually, it creates risk in elections. Turnout remains very high. We had the highest turnout primary election this year since 2009. And then, of course, we're still dealing with COVID and keeping our voters safe. And then, of course, you know, accessibility issues. You know, we've got some pretty strict Department of Justice mandates when it comes to elections. And then, of course, legislative mandates that are new. Beginning last year, we had to stand up a voter hub at the Evergreen State College. We did get some grant money to get that off the board, or get that off the ground. State law now requires that we have a second voting center, which we have set up at the Lacey Library. But we really need to get some cleanup legislation passed, or if we do go to the atrium, it means I would have to have 3. And I simply don't have the staff to do that. We've received a tremendous amount of public records requests following the 2020 election. And I just asked Tilly how many hours we've spent on these. We've been getting a whole lot in recently. And she said we've spent 80 hours in just the last 15 days, 80 staff hours fulfilling these public records requests, and they're not stopping. And then, of course, we got filed with the lawsuit. There's so much misinformation out there. So our really big focus now in elections is to get as many observers in as possible. And we're having a lot of success, but it's really tight in that building. Anybody who's been in there, you know, when we're really busy in a general election. So we really have to escort them, and that takes staff also. Cyber and physical security remain a threat. And, you know, it's pretty interesting time to be an election official. I've received threats. The FBI has actually stood up a task force strictly for threats to election officials. So we've got some challenges, not just now, but in the future. So what I did was I wanted to break out, since I do have so many different divisions, I wanted to break it out by color so you can easily see which division we're talking about. Green is elections, purple is recording, licensing, passports, and then the dark blue is financial services. I'm in desperate need of a new election person. As I mentioned, we've got new technology, plus we have observers that one person has to be with at all times to, answer their questions and make sure they don't touch ballots or anything like that. But as you know, we also bill staff as costs to the election. So it's going to bring in revenue. In fact, 50% of it will likely be billed out. So the effect to the general fund is about $45,000. Redistricting, this is something that we have to do every 10 years. So I need it in my budget because that's going to take a lot of overtime, and we've got to do a countywide mailing. But again, that is billed out 100% to all the jurisdictions. We actually bill the cities and towns for that one because it's all dealing with voter registration. So the county will get a sliver of that also. Second voting center, again, this is a requirement of state law now. Most of that will be billed out, but probably not all of it. We figure about $3,500. Recording and licensing, well, we are so busy with passports, it's unbelievable. If we could get another person, that would actually bring an additional $83,000 into the general fund, because we expected about $160,000 is what we would estimate per person, and I'm pretty conservative when it comes to estimates. So that would actually be recognized revenue. We'd really like to get our budget cuts restored, and we have an agreement, a MOU with the union, and I think this is a great model for really many places in the county, which I know HR really likes also, where, people start as either you're a licensing tech one or a recording tech one, but both, when they become proficient in those, they get an opportunity to cross-train. So a licensing tech would start learning recording and vice versa. And if they are successful, they actually get promoted to a licensing recording tech too, which is really helpful when we have people who are sick or we have people, on vacation. But we anticipate some of these in the upcoming years. We've got a couple people who are ready to go from 1 to 2s and also 2s to 3s. I've talked a lot about our financial services reorganization, and we're not asking for any new positions, just a couple reclassifications. And later in the presentation, I'll actually show you the organization chart where we are now and what we're going to go to. But I really think that this is going to help us, create careers for our staff and help attract and retain staff. So if you look at our total budget asks versus what we're bringing in, because our revenue is also through the roof, which I'll talk about a little bit, we're going to bring in an additional $747,000, not counting any of these asks in this presentation. And that's above what we are bringing in this year. That's how robust business has been. So if you take all of our requests with our revenue, it's actually positive general fund impact. But, when you're super, super busy, you've got to have the resources to really get the job done. And that's what we're facing right now. My staff is pretty overwhelmed right now. One of the major impacts that we're going to see with additional revenue is, of course, this is the first year that the state will start paying their share for election costs. So if you look at 2018, 2020, and 2022, we used to absorb the state's share of election costs as well as the cost for the federal offices that were on the ballot. Well, this year we will actually be billing that out. So we anticipate our revenue in 2022 is going to be at about $816,500 for election billing. So that's a substantial increase, and that's money that we've never seen before. And to see a year over year look at that, we build jurisdictions in odd number years. So, 2019, we brought in 1.1 million. This year, we expect about the same. But in 2022, we're going to have a huge spike as well. So again, the election technician position is about 45,000 net annual impact to the general fund. But we reduced the election staff actually in 2015 when we were going through budget cuts. I had one election manager and 2 supervisor, and we cut one of the supervisor positions. So I have 8 full-time staff to have a student hub at Evergreen, 2 voting centers, and the ballot processing center, and it simply is not enough. And the reason I want a technician is because we're dealing a lot more with technology, and it's going to continue to be that way once we have enough room to buy the equipment that we're hoping to buy very soon. But registered voter numbers are continually going up. We've topped 200,000. And if you look at 2010 to now, that's a 40% increase. You're doing your redistricting now, and thank you very much. It's gone really well and taken whole precincts, so that's going to help us a lot. But we've really been analyzing the legislative and congressional maps, and I don't think those are going to be as friendly. We've got one map that follows Burlington Northern Railroad, cuts Tenino in half, and those are the precinct adjustments that we're going to have to make, following whenever their maps get final, which is November 15th, hopefully, if they can agree. If they can't agree, then it goes to the courts, and that's always a big fear for an elections administrator. So as I mentioned, 8 full-time staff. We're going to be doing re-precincting. Everything we do is billed out to jurisdiction. So every election we conduct, it's prorated based on number of issues and candidates on the ballot and the number of registered voters. So again, this is going to be permanent funding for elections beginning in 2022. And I am 100% positive they will never back away from that, because I don't think they would want to see a headline that legislature defunds elections. So I feel pretty confident that's here to stay.
So Mary,
yes.
are you, before you move on, is what you just said kind of the explanation for I'm looking at a different chart, but it shows 44,000 revenue for 2022 and then bumping up to 91,000 for 2023. Just so I understand that change, or that's because of of the way it'll be billed out in 2023 will be different, or?
I'm not sure what chart you're looking at.
Off the change request, your actual request,
The first for the election technician position.
right?
I don't have that in front of me. My apologies.
Okay.
I can open it up if you want me. Give me the time to go look for that. There is an explanation. I want to say that there's other revenue down below, or expenditure below. Boy.
The expenditure for each year is about the same, 91,000 plus. The revenue for 2022 is 44, and for 2023 is 91. And I wanted to make sure I understood.
Okay, I think it's because there are county offices on the ballot in 2022, but not in 2023.
So more can get billed out, closer to 100% gets billed out in 2023.
Exactly, because we have to absorb the cost. There's a county cost because we've got county elected officials on the ballot. So that's why the revenue isn't the same. We don't bill the county because it's a wash, right? It's all general fund. Does that make sense?
Honestly, I do get a bill. Oh, but that's for the election fund,
I think so.
yeah.
Any
Okay.
questions, Commissioner? Yeah.
I think
Because on our billing worksheet, we allocate the costs for the county because we're required to by law, but we don't send you a bill,
But for the
except for the election reserve fund. So,
Ramiro has something.
I think Mary's answering your question on the different line item. I think
No, she's answering for the
because
election.
the first one is related to the technician position.
Right,
And you have the revenue 2022 of 44,000, the expenditure 91,690. In 23, the revenue expenditure matches.
that's right.
And that is based on what you're saying on reimbursement?
The county has to cover some of that because we have so many county officials on the 2022 ballot, is what I'm understanding Mary just be saying.
That's,
correct. So we won't be billing out as much in 2022 as we will in 2023.
And then that will sort of be an every other year pattern, sort of looking into the future.
sort of.
Sure. So, for example, in 2024, there's, what's on the ballot,
2 commissioners.
judges and 1 commissioner. So yeah.
Okay.
So I think there are more positions on the ballot in years when, in midterms, not presidential years, more county offices.
The takeaway, though, from kind of what you're saying, the takeaway is that a good portion of this position is billed out to others, and that percentage has increased based on the new law where the state's refunding more of its off-year election or even year. So even a higher percentage of this proposed position would be funded through external sources versus.
Oh, yeah. And then some. I mean, if we're going to be getting, basically an extra approximately $700,000 that we never saw before.
Okay, if everybody's good on that, we can go to the next one.
I already talked a little bit about redistricting costs. You always hold your breath to see those maps. Yours are pretty simple now. Just redistricting with 3. But the other request is, I know that, you and the port have talked about going from 3 to 5 commissioners and putting it on the ballot in 2022, which would make our job, this is a 2023 request only. This is a lot harder, in my opinion, going from 3 to 5. It's nothing I've ever done. I've redrawn precincts from scratch, but unless we could take whole precincts and figure out that little puzzle, we could be splitting a lot of precincts. I can't even imagine. I have no crystal ball, but regardless of what happens, we're still going to need to rebuild our database with all of the voters in the correct precincts. And our deadline to do that in 2023 would be March 31st. If the port were to elect their candidates in 2023. So I know that this isn't set in stone yet. We have no crystal ball knowing if we will reach 300,000 or if the voters would vote for it. But what I'm trying to do is stay in the normal budget process, because I've seen what it's like to ask for things outside of the normal budget process, and I really don't want to go there. And then, of course, if it didn't happen, you would just get all of this back, just like the April election. right? So that's what this is. This is just a one-time ask for 2023, should the stars align and we go from 3 to 5 commissioners, both in the port and with the board. Any questions about that one?
I have just a question. If it's for a 2023, why is it shown under the 2022?
It's in the 2023 column.
Okay,
She's
so
talking about,
yeah.
Mary, you jumped ahead to the 3 to 5 item in 23. What I think Commissioner Mejia is seeing is the 105,000 in 2022 for election redistricting costs.
Yeah, that's for our normal redistricting as required by the decennial census every 10 years.
Okay.
And
Yeah, they're two separate. So we will be redistricting twice essentially, should you go from 3 to 5.
so on the regular decennial redistricting, where does that revenue come from?
So in decennial redistricting, that is billed out to every city and town and the county. So the county will pay a share, but every city and town will be billed based on the number of registered voters. That's considered a voter registration cost.
Okay.
So it's not an election cost because what you're dealing with are registered voters. So, yeah. Did I answer all your questions?
I think we're good so far.
Are they 3 to 5 commissioners, 2023, the $45,000 revenue, you assume the port will participate on that? Is that the intent to?
I would think that there would be sharing, and if you would want geodata to draw all the districts.
No, just
So yes,
no, just to clarify, the revenue that you have in 2023 of $45,000, that's the assumption?
yes, the assumption is that we would build a port, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Our second voting center, which again is required by law, it really requires a minimum of 2 FTEs, and ideally you would have 3 because people have to take lunches and breaks. But, I work hard to be efficient and frugal, and we have worked out a deal with the library that one of their staff people will act as the second person when somebody has to go to lunch or go to break or go to the bathroom or wherever they have to go, because you have to have 2 people with ballots at all time. The other thing, and we're working on some cleanup legislation to ensure I don't have to have a 3rd voting center once we move out to Tumwater, but the other thing we're working on is a cleanup bill. This is a result of universal registration, where you can register in any county. So the way the law reads now, we have to stay open every night until election, 8 p.m. on election day, even if we don't have an election. So if Spokane has an April special election, as the law reads now, we have to be open until 8 p.m. in case a Spokane voter comes into our office and requests a ballot. I'm hoping, and I'm pretty certain we can get that in a cleanup bill, but there are a lot of unintended consequences in some of the laws that were recently placed. But we've been partnering with Timberland Regional Library for a lot of additional voter services. They can't all be a voting center because we don't have the staff for that. But we are trying to branch out and allow them to at least, act as a voter registration hub on election day and allow voters to download ballots. So again, we've got a tremendous staff shortage with not only the new laws, but the new equipment we have, just the growth we've experienced in elections over the years. And it's been pretty rapid growth too. We've got a couple election grants. These are really just carryover requests.
Hold on a sec, Mary.
Okay.
That particular voter center doesn't appear on the chart that I'm working on.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's not there.
It's a request for about, I think, the It doesn't show up on a change request?
It
Right,
shows,
it doesn't show on our report out of the system for some reason.
We've got your slide here, so I mean, I see the numbers you're talking about. It's just, I'm just trying to make sure that we have everything, all the different places. it
yeah,
needs
that
to
one
be.
has a B0210,
Nine,
and we don't have that on there.
14, 15, no, it doesn't show up on the reports out of Westica.
So,
Maybe Denise is up there.
Yeah,
so it's in a category of grants. Right now.
one of the grants.
Elections grants.
Okay.
Yes.
And the elections grant on the B0211, Denise?
So we,
02, did you say 11?
Yeah,
Okay, I was looking for B0210, which is in grants. B0211 is in a policy.
Okay,
so this is a grant. Or wait a minute.
0210?
No.
is a Grant?
No, I'm sorry. This is a second voting center. So 11 is previously approved grants that need to be carried over. We simply didn't have enough space to buy the equipment that we were hoping to buy last year. So I'm really hoping that we can bump into the D shop, which is where we have all our, inventory, like envelopes and
We'll figure it out. Okay.
archive stuff, and then move all of those supplies, like license plates and everything else that's in there, to another vacant bay somewhere in that Motlin complex. So, fingers crossed. We don't really need to build walls. We just need to open it up and, get space and make sure there's power. And, I have no idea what it's going to take. And then we also have a grant that was given to operate the student engagement hubs at Evergreen State College. Both of these have a spend down to 2024. So we're just rolling these forward.
Who is?
Gary.
Oh, okay. Just FYI, for the record, Commissioner Edwards, I believe, has just joined us. Commissioner, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're right in the middle of the auditor presentation, so hopefully that orients you what's going on.
Do you want me to go back to the beginning?
No,
No,
I'm with you,
don't have
Mary.
time for that, unfortunately, but just keep on going, Mary.
Okay.
Thank you.
So these are just carryover election grants. This is the same thing. We have a restricted fund for equipment. Again, we have not been able to purchase this equipment, and some of our equipment has a pretty high price tag on it. And boy, if we could have it by the midterms, that would change our world. But so we're hopeful. If not, we'll just carry it over again until we have the space. So
Another one that's not in.
That's another one that is not
This is
included.
general fund only. General fund only, and she's saying her election equipment would be out of a restricted fund.
But it's not in here either.
right. So this is not general fund. This is not a general fund ask.
I will figure that out.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So moving on to licensing. We have had record-breaking years, both in licensing and recording. And who would have thought? I mean, boy, last year at this time, we were worried we're going to have a recession, which is why, our budgets got cut. But boy, that certainly has not been the case. And I am very grateful that the majority of our staff are cross-trained, that most can do licensing, recording, and passports. And it's been a challenging year, not just the level of transactions, but wow, DOL has really had some challenges. We've got a license plate shortage. And they've changed the contract. So while the Department of Licensing used to actually do the thorough audits on subagents, they have passed the baton to us. So now we have to do those audits. We should just do spot audits, you know, of their title work and look at their bank accounts and things like that. But this is a lot more thorough of an audit that we are responsible for. We were the pilot for the first virtual audit. It was, I can't say it was a great audit as far as procedurally with them, but we're working through it. We're on the audit development committee and a couple other committees, so hopefully that'll get a lot better. But again, staff time, and I think it's important that my staff be involved because they really are considered, you know, statewide subject matter experts. Yeah, and I don't know how many people have personalized license plates. I believe you do, Romero.
Yep.
And I think you got the letter I got also that said they're not valid anymore. So that generated a tremendous amount of phone calls, but hopefully, and that's behind us. But revenue is just skyrocketing. I mean, it was up 24% in 2020 compared to 2019. And it's up another 7% over 2020 year to date for 2021. So to give you a dollar figure ideas, 2019 was 1.8 million, 2020 was 2.2 million. So this next graph shows you, we quit in August. So we took 2019 and went back to August as well as with 2022. But this just shows you the increase of our licensing revenue. I mean, we are busy and people are buying cars. And, you know, we haven't, they're not traveling, right? So they're buying new cars. So we really need to add a person in licensing. And again, once they get past that level 1, they'll be able to cross-train. But, you know, we're up 12,000 transactions from August 21 over August 2020. And that's a lot. And especially now that we've got one full-time person that has become or had to become, you know, a full-time auditor, where before she was simply, looking at title work and bank accounts. Recording is also just going gangbusters. I mean, you know, we didn't include any passport revenue for 2021 because we weren't sure if we were going to be issuing passports, but we hit our annual revenue projection in June, which is pretty amazing. August 2020, 582,000. August 2021, we were at 720,000. So that was up 34%. So we're recording a lot more documents, 88,000 in 2020. And that was 21,000 more documents recorded than in, 2019. So we're seeing a steady incline. And we're up 30%, in 2021 compared to August of 2020. And this takes work, and we are behind. We've got a lot of people working overtime, which is not sustainable. You really have to worry about burnout. And we're not keeping up with our indexing. We used to be maybe two days behind a standard. One person keys in the information, and then the other person has to verify it. Otherwise, you could lose, deeds of trust if it's not proof to ensure that the data was entered correctly. So we're 14 days behind.
Mary?
And our wait, yes.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
So you mentioned overtime. How much are you paying in overtime right now?
Boy, I would have to go into Munis to pull those statistics, but I can certainly get those to you. It's voluntary, not mandatory, but people have been working overtime. And, the other thing we're doing, you may or may not be aware, but we close every Columbus/Indigenous People Day for staff training, so they're going to use the afternoon to try to play a little catch up too. So I'll get you the overtime hours.
Thank you.
Mhm. You know, our wait times have increased, so we're not even really giving that great a customer service. And even though we try to be as efficient as possible, you know, we've really pushed our title companies to do as much e-recording as possible, which is, you know, quicker for us, but it still takes a lot of work. The Qmatic system has really helped tremendously. You know, it's helped keep people out of our lobby, which then takes a little pressure off of staff when they don't see that big, long line, but they do see it in the queue. And, you know, we really don't see that going down. And again, you know, if I can add one person, they can, you know, I can use somebody who can go back and forth between recording and licensing, you know, my twos. But I've also had a full-time person in passports. We resumed our passports in July, and we did that in parallel with really all the passport offices, just so one office didn't get totally slammed, because people have been, you know, chomping at the bit to get in and get their passports, because once this COVID is over, I think people are going to want to take a long trip. So, you know, we use the Qmatic system, so that's great, but we are booked out as far as we can be on Qmatic, and we have literally done no outreach. The only thing we did was put it on our website and put it in Qmatic. And the other thing that is in front of us is they pushed the deadline for Real ID out to 2023, so we're going to continue to see a huge increase in passport service, which is revenue. But this is the one thing that I'm not required to do under statute, but I'm always looking for ways that we can bring in revenue, because we're busy. 115 passports in July, 190 in August, and like I said, with the soft launch. So if we could add another person, this actually is positive revenue, because we expect revenue to be about 160,000, but the cost would only be about 76,000. So that would increase, you know, really by about an FTE for the county.
Mary, can I ask you about the numbers on these two?
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I can back up everything you're saying, because I tried to get a passport appointment for my son, and you're booked out beyond where they're taking appointments. And if you Google Passport Services Olympia, Thurston County Auditor comes up first. So you're well positioned to continue to grow, from what I can tell. But anyway, in terms of these numbers, so the next two entries on our form, one says recording resources for passports, add an FTE. 120,851. You just said 76,000. Is there something more built into that? And then the next entry is increased licensing staff, 1 FTE. Doesn't show any revenue, but you were showing us the chart of the growing revenue. So I'm just trying to make sure I understand where there's revenue and where the FTE, what the FTE is costing for each of those two items.
Well, there's revenue just based on the additional revenue. I mean, our revenue has gone up substantially. You know, if you look at licensing, for example, you know, 1.8 million in 2019 to 2.2 million in 2020, and we're on track to beat that also. So, you know, it's additional revenue just because we are collecting more, we're doing more transactions, right? Does that make sense?
Not tied to a person, it's at maintenance level. The revenue for the licensing and recording fees are at maintenance level. And the board can use them as you see fit, and Mary's requesting that you use a portion of them to add a staff in her office.
Does that go into what you had said at one of your earlier slides, where there's 747,000 of additional revenue?
Yeah, let me go back to, this might help. So if you look here, this is, I mean, we're already going to have, we're budgeting, our revenue adjustment, what we're budgeting in this budget is an additional $747,000 in revenue, just because we are breaking records on licensing transaction and recording transactions. So, but the revenue up top, like the green, this is stuff that would be billable to jurisdictions. You know, adding a passport person would be an additional 160,000, but the expenditure, because you have to hire the person, would be about 76,000. So overall, with the revenue we generate, and this is new revenue, this isn't, you know, the revenue from, you know, that's been coming in for years. This is brand new revenue that we're going to see in 2022. And, you know, if we did nothing with these positions, it would be about 747,000. If we, you know, add this 1.6 million, but of course we've got general fund impact also. So it'd be a net positive revenue for the general fund of $550,000. Does that make sense?
I think so. Why does on this slide, the passport expenditure is 76,951. On our change request form, it's 120,851. I'm trying to make sure I understand what's going on there.
I'm trying to find the two things. The first
So you
is,
need to,
Hold on one sec. Robin's got something.
so I'm looking up the difference in the expenditure side for passport services to see what the actual request is. Change requests. While I look that up, Mary, how much passport revenue is in your base budget?
this year we didn't budget anything.
0. So the total revenue anticipated for next year in passports is how much?
Well, for the extra person, it would be 83,049. I guess I'm not,
So I'm trying to figure out what the total revenue from passport services will be in 2022.
Is that
Because
160?
the total amount of revenue built into the system from passports is 160,000. And that's how much it was before we started the pandemic?
okay, and that's what we've got here is 160,000. And my apologies again, I don't have those change requests in front of me. Denise has her hand up.
Denise has her hand up.
So what I'm seeing in the system is $160,000 for passport, Robin. So that's the total.
In total?
Yeah.
Right, because you start on a base of 0. So the 160,000 is restoring what we stepped out when the pandemic started. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, because we didn't have any revenue budgeted
Right.
going into 2021. That's correct.
So, and we have a person doing passport services now.
We have one.
And are you requesting a second passport person?
Yes, I am.
And the total cost, and I'm looking at your change request in the system, for the person, this is the passport one?
Denise has her hand up.
Yes, Denise.
Hello again. So the cost for 2022 for the position is $79,901. And then there's some additional expenditure lines as well.
For the existing position,
That's for the requested position.
requested position.
So what I can see in the requested position, we're gonna have to sort this out because the amount that I see in the system is just shy of 100,000 in each year. We've got 120,000 on the cheat sheet, and Mary's got 76,000 on her slides. So we need to figure out what the accurate numbers are, and we'll work on that.
Right, there's an additional lines in the change request for restoring maintenance level, extra help, at-risk, small tools, and communication.
So this isn't all about passports?
So the way I view this, and I am, I'm not the, accountant CPA. Passports, the revenue we generate, 50% of that are staff costs. Does that make sense? But I'm not mandated to provide passports. What I'm mandated to provide is recording and licensing services.
Right.
Right.
So, we can either continue passports or not. I think staff enjoy doing them.
I'm lost.
Yeah.
I don't think the question is whether we want to continue with the passports or not. I think that's a good service that you provide to the citizens.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I think.
But I can't do it if I don't get more people.
No, but I think it's a valid question. Prior to the pandemic, the revenue generated by the passport was about 160,000. Now, and that was already funded a position. So now moving to 2022, you restore that revenue 160,000 and you requested an additional position. I think that is the question.
Right, because our transactions in recording and licensing have gone through the roof. So without more people, I can't continue passports. But if we get another dedicated passport person and a dedicated licensing person, I will be providing really good customer service, which we're not doing now. And heaven forbid somebody is, on vacation and somebody's child gets sick. That's pretty tough. So, but the bottom line is the additional revenue. I mean, the passports more than pays for itself, right? For us to issue passports. But the bottom line is we are so busy in licensing and recording, that even adding that position, we're still, and this is new revenue, not existing revenue coming in. It's still an additional $550,000 impact to the general fund.
Well, the money that's not tied to a specific activity.
This is very true, but if I can't get extra people, I don't have the resources to continue passports. Or we could just add a licensing technician and continue to just have one person doing passports. But what we have to do, I am mandated by law to provide licensing and recording services.
Right.
So,
Nobody's arguing that.
and passports and recording are interchangeable because they're cross-trained. So what that does is allow us to, go back and forth. When we have breaks, let's say a passport appointment didn't last the full 45 minutes. We have them stuffing envelopes with license tabs.
Right.
We're trying to be as efficient as possible, but,
We're just
the point is, our revenues, you can't deny our revenue shows we are really super busy.
Mary,
Commissioner Mejia.
so, my confusion lies, for me, it's not, we're not trying to argue with you on the needs of your office. I think it's very evident that they're there, but I think the confusion is coming from the numbers and
They're all different.
and they're all different. And so I feel like that's what we need clarification on, or at least
Right.
that's what I need for me, as I'm seeing one number on one sheet, another number in your presentation, and then another number from Diana that she pulled up from the system. So it's 3 different numbers, and I'm just trying to clarify, okay, what's the actual number?
Right.
Okay, well, my apologies.
Just trying to sort it out.
We got a lot going on, and but I will work with my team to pull all of these papers together that you're looking at, and get the right number. What I'm wondering is, could it be the restored budget cut? Has that been factored in there? Because that might be it, maybe.
We'll work with
We'll work through it.
we'll work with you and sort the numbers out. So
We'll have these
yeah.
flagged. Let's go to in the interest of time, because we're at hour and 15 minutes now. Let's go to, about an hour. Let's go to the financial services piece, Mary.
Let me get back there. Okay, I'll talk briefly about this. This is also a restricted fund. We want to continue these positions, but again, dedicated fund, not general fund. Financial services, what a great group I've got. They're so amazing. 6 straight clean audit, and I think what's kind of interesting about this year, every year the state auditor picks a department, and that's called the, accountability audit. And this year it was financial services. So they didn't even get as much as an exit comment. So I'm really proud of these folks. They've got, really strong, segregation of duties, internal controls, and I think that they've worked hard to, create a culture in the county that, there are ways to do things, and that's why you do them that way. 14th straight, annual certified financial report award. And I thought, they did a great job. They were part of the team that, Robin led to ensure that we maximized our federal funds for reimbursement. And we didn't get an audit finding. And believe me, listening to my colleagues across the state, we're the minority. So, Thurston County did an amazing job. But I've got 5 senior level people who are ready to retire within the next 5 years, not all at once. But I really need to do some succession planning and create opportunity to make sure that I can attract and retain staff. Plus, we're right in the middle of the ERP, which is a huge, huge job for Darren as the, executive of that project. So this is currently the top organization chart is what financial services looks like. Everybody reports to Darren except for a couple people. And there's just no upward mobility for these folks. So what we want to do is set it up like the chart on the bottom. And so the green squares there are rectangles. Those are positions that we would reclass to have more supervisory experience. The left side would be operations. So accounts payable, payroll, small departmental accounting, credit cards, that sort of work. And on the other side would be reporting, which would be our CAFR, the cost plan, assets, and all the various, reporting that we are required to do. So it would take a tremendous amount of pressure off of Darren. He would then have 4 direct reports, and it would also provide some supervisory experience for other people in the organization, and they're certainly ready for it. I'm not asking for a full-time person. This is simply reclassifying a couple people. So I think it costs like $44,000. Yeah, that's less than a full-time staff person. But we provide a really integral role in this county I mean, we're the people who train all the financial folks that get hired and that come on board in the county. And we really do need to have people who have been here a long time, so they know the systems. It's very frustrating for us with Department of Licensing because they have brand new people all the time. So when we call for technical support, we know more than they do and they give us the wrong answer. And we can't afford to have that in the county over something as important as county finances. So we've been talking about this and planning for this for a very long time. I think we're there. And I really hope that, that you will approve this. I think it's a really smart move. And I think it will help us retain staff. And, it's a great culture to work, but if there are other opportunities for growth, other places, I mean, people have careers. It's not a job, they have careers. So I want to create career opportunity for people in financial services. And just to give you an overview, I mean, our revenue has increased substantially. You can do whatever you want with that extra revenue that goes into the general fund, but my people are really struggling. When somebody's sick or a couple people are on vacation, I don't have that many staff. And, what suffers is passports. We work hard to ensure that we're always ready for everything. Practicing our continuity plans. And, even when the county was out of power in 2019, we stayed and did manual recording and exercised our COOP plans. We finished our audit on time. We're in the good category, which makes us much lower risk, which saves us a lot of money in state auditor charges because they aren't cheap. So anyway, and I really appreciate all of you. We are in some challenging times, and I know everybody's exhausted. I know I am, and frankly, so is most of my staff. But we have a job to do, and we have a commitment to the residents of Thurston County to be the best that we can do and do the best job that we can. And really, all I need this time are people. And, I'll continue to work hard to bring in additional revenue where I can, cut costs where I can, and conduct the best elections and give the best service that we can. So anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Edwards? Give you first shot as we try to close this out.
Okay. I think that although I'm a little confused on the numbers that Commissioner Mejia pointed out, I do think that as long as we've got the revenue coming in, I understand where Mary is coming from. So I'm looking forward to hearing from those numbers. And other than that, I don't have any questions. You guys have asked them for me. Thank you.
Sounds good, sir. Thank you, Commissioner Mejia.
No further questions. Thank you, Mary, for really all you do.
Of course.
Just one other numbers question. The 45,000 on the reorg is 67.7 on our change sheet. Maybe that's one that we can clear up as we clear up the others.
Absolutely.
And then there's one last entry here. I don't know if it needs to be discussed. Transfer facilitator positions from facilitator fund to general fund. Negative 7,000. Is that something?
Can you repeat that? I'm not sure what that is.
Transfer facilitator positions from the facilitator fund, Fund 1020, to the general fund. It's a $7,000 revenue decrease.
Can you share your screen so I can see what you're
No, it's a report.
Looking at-
We have a report, we don't have a screen.
Yeah.
well, I know we had some issues with some of those reports, like, and employer figures being wrong and things like that. So I'm sorry, it's hard for me to answer that unless I see all of those,
Right.
but
So are you proposing transferring the cost for any of your positions out of a restricted fund to the general fund?
So for the financial
Yeah.
services.
We'll figure the numbers out.
Okay, the only thing I can think of is we're also asking to restore the budget cuts from financial services.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering if that, the clerk, we pay for 2 of the clerk's positions out of our 1050 fund. That's a historical image fund.
Yeah.
So 1020 is not an auditor fund, if
Okay,
that's the fund you're looking at.
then it could have just been tagged with the wrong office. Yeah, Denise?
Yeah, that's a line that's coming out of a clerk, change request. So, and the reports just get picked up for whatever, if there's a line, whatever fund or office it relates to, it gets picked up, there. And so, that's where that's coming from.
So we'll address it with the clerk, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds like it. We'll figure it out.
Okay, and then Ramiro, you just handed me 2 financial plans. Do we need to review these now, or what's?
No, just give, that's,
Those are the auditors.
the auditors, 10-year financial plan.
For their restricted funds.
And, all the office and departments have the 10 years on your pocket, it's just right in your pocket.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm happy to answer any questions on those funds also.
Okay, thanks, Mary. We'll be going back through these. These were just I think we got a lot of good information today, so.
Okay, and I'll have my staff work with you or Denise, or what would you like us to do, Robin, to
Yeah, we'll
see
figure,
why the numbers aren't adding up?
yeah, we'll connect with you, Mary. You just let us know who on your team you want us to connect with, and we'll figure out what was going on.
Okay,
Yeah, my apologies for the confusion.
yeah, it'd be Diana.
Okay. We'll contact her.
Okay,
Okay, then I guess we will be adjourned for this afternoon. We'll be back 9 a.m. for agenda setting in the morning.
all right. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. With that, we'll adjourn.